preparedness. I recognize just about everybody here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Roy Forbes. I live over on the 900 block of Mullen. I've got some information over there on the table. This is helping you with information, gives you information about setting up a family plan, how to prepare so if the disaster strikes and the family isn't all at home, how do you reunite, how do you communicate. On the back, or on the front, depending on which side you're looking at first, I suppose, what sorts of supplies you may want to supplement beyond the basics of food, water, if you need additional shelter because your home isn't habitable, first aid and sanitation, so there's some extra things that you might want to add there and some tips. So that's available for you. And then these cards are also there. This is for your family plan. So this is where you'll write down, say, the number of an out-of-state relative or friend who's a contact out of state that everybody will phone into. It'll make more sense when thinking about how to make a family plan. The last little quick thing, because we have a big agenda, is, so in addition to getting your homeowner's insurance, think of your disaster supplies as another form of insurance. You all are going to be the first responders. Okay? Let that sink in. You will not be getting help in the way that you think you may be getting help from the fire and police. Okay? They're doing damage assessment. Their vehicles all have assigned routes. They're going to go out and they're going to make notes and send it back to Central Command, which will figure out where's the greatest need for resources. So you may not see them for a while, or you may see them just going down the street doing damage assessment. So you all better be prepared to take care of yourselves, and the best thing you can do after preparing for yourself is to get your neighbors to left, right, front, and behind you all prepared, because we are all going to be helping each other. So with that, start with water. That's the first thing. Everybody here by now, please, you should have at minimum 7 gallons of water per person in the house. That's enough for 1 week per person, 7 gallons. Don't rely on pools, because the chemicals that keep them clean are what's going to wreak havoc with your gut after a day or two, regardless of whether you filter it or not. Don't rely on your water heater, because the water heater may be cracked, broken, whatever, that water may not be accessible. So start with the water. Once you go from water, then you can work with the others, the food, decide where you're going to shelter. So if your home is not habitable, our nearest evacuation center is LA High. But you may decide, I want to stay on my property. So what are your plans for that? How are you going to do that? Test sleeping bags, things like that. Think it through. You can go, there's a website on here. You can go to the website. It'll give you a lot of resources. But anyway, get your homeowner's insurance and prepare for the other stuff.
Wait, whose brochure is that? What's
mine. This is mine. So I put this all together. And then as part of this also, we tried a few years ago. It never really quite took. We only had about 10% participation. If I'm feeling up to it, we're going to do it again. Send surveys to every home in Brookside, taking an inventory of preparedness, and then begin to do outreach and come up with a disaster plan, block by block, so we really can, as a neighborhood, rally together and help each other a little more efficiently. So that will be coming down the line. Oh, and by the way, last thing, we're videotaping this meeting. So if you ever want to watch it, and because it was so gripping and riveting, or you want to tell any neighbors you know who weren't able to attend, and we're going to be posting it on brooksider.net, brooksider.net, and we'll start videotaping meetings, what we already have, and posting them on that website, so it'll become an information resource.
okay. The next item we've got is the at-risk building doing an EIR, and I think that's about the tower. By now, everybody got a mailing of the historical letter that we got from the society about the damage that happened to the tower in the last earthquake. At one of the meetings we had with Clyde, he said, he told us about the damage, but I didn't realize that it was so bad that they wouldn't allow them to go into the building. Anyway, there were some mailings that you guys wrote into city planning browbeat the people, and they pulled their application, and it's a problem. And it's a problem because of interference. And so what I have done is requested that the Bridgewater Neighborhood Council request City Council to direct CIM to comply with the law. There is an earthquake ordinance, and it's standalone. It has nothing to do with anything else. I understand some people figure that because there's an EI park going on, that they have to wait until it's over, and that's the issue. Because of what you have done, if there is an earthquake and the building sustains damage, CIM is in a great position because they said, we tried and we were stopped. The city now make us whole. And those guys are jumping up and down downtown about that. And so they're going to do it. I think that takes care of that. Any questions?
I don't recall receiving this letter, so you're saying that I didn't get this letter.
Yes, okay, they were mailed, I put them in the mail on Thursday, they were mailed to everybody in Brookside.
Did you get one of these?
I didn't get one.
No, not that.
But it was with it. It was in the package,
Yes,
an
with the
envelope
agenda.
that had the
Has four
agenda,
things on it.
a
Yes.
letter from the Historical
Yes.
Society, and on the back of it was the request
Yes.
from the Greater Wilshire to the City Council.
So you're saying that the farmers has earthquake damage?
They had some severe earthquake damage.
Okay.
They have or had?
They had and they have.
Can everybody talk at once or just one person, please?
And the problem is that because of the damage, and let me say this, you know, I'm a construction guy. And we used to do a little bit of this kind of stuff. And so contractors and owners try to mitigate the damage. And this is a kind of a strange thing because at one point we were saying we want to protect the building. No one ever said what we were going to protect it against or who we were going to protect it from. CIM was the owner, and they sure as hell weren't going to tear down a 119-foot building to build a 45-foot building. So, you know, you kind of had a problem with that. Then when CIM said, look, because of the damage, we want to retrofit the building so that we will protect it, people said, no, you can't do that. So you have to wonder, is it an issue about the owner or is it the building? If farmers own the building and they said, we're going to retrofit our building, nobody would say a word. So it appears as though the only issue is CIM, but the city council will take care of that. Okay, we got a, yeah.
You said that they were going to do it and the board pulled the permit for that?
Well, city planning talked to those guys, got them in the room, beat them over the head, they pulled their request. And it makes sense. They've got no business here. You know, and the last thing Clyde says, I have the legal right to earthquake my building, to retrofit, follow the law and retrofit my building. But we're going to hold off. But he doesn't mind holding off. Because if something happens to the building while he's waiting, because of something we did, the city gets to pick up the tab. He's got some damn good lawyers.
So what you're saying is that this building is severely damaged,
Yes.
and should it have further damage,
Since 1971.
Yeah.
but it's not
No, from,
magnetic.
yeah, from the last earthquake.
1971 or 1992?
The last earthquake,
The Northridge earthquake?
94, Northridge.
what was the date on that?
94.
Yeah. They had, that last earthquake that they had some damage. It didn't,
When 20th Century went out of the earthquake insurance business, the company that now owns Farmers went out of the earthquake business in 1994. They had damage there, but did nothing to fix it since then?
apparently not.
Okay.
Would be,
So why doesn't CIM sue them for not having their earthquake?
Well,
building
let me say this. Before Farmers put the building on the market, they had a couple of us up at their offices, and they said, look, we're going to sell the building. It has severe earthquake damage, and we don't want to deal with it. So what we will do is disclose it to the owners, the new people who are selling, and let them take care of it.
Mhm.
And that's where it is. So they moved their people out. They didn't want to relocate all their people and do the retrofit and all that other stuff. And so I imagine they discounted the building, at least in part, for that. Now, I don't believe that CIM believes them. At least they don't, I don't think that they got the full disclosure, so they want to really get in there and take a look at it.
So this information is coming to you from someone in the city or from Clyde?
Oh, I know the building's damaged.
No,
I'm
not
look,
questioning
Farmer
that.
said it was-
I just want to know where your
Oh,
information is coming
yeah,
from as far as.
Yeah,
what things
yeah, Clyde made it known that he wanted to retrofit the building. He wanted to comply with earthquake ordinance that was passed October 9th, 2015.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't that ordinance allow 25 years to retrofit?
I'm sorry?
Doesn't the ordinance allow 25 years to retrofit a building?
You're kidding.
Actually,
They're not going to, look, they're not going, yeah, that's true. But they're not going, they can't sell the building with the damage to it. And let me tell you guys one other thing about it.
They already got
Like somebody else bought it.
I'm sorry.
They bought the building with the damage, so they.
But
sell
they
the
can't
damage.
sell condominiums with the damage. They've got to fix it.
once they,
Once
once
the
they,
EIR is around.
No. The municipal code specifically has exemptions for this, but it doesn't matter. The city council's ordinance has nothing to do with EIR. It's standalone. Nothing at all. And another
We
reason.
don't know what's in the building that they're gonna be pulling out while they're doing this retrofitting. And is an EIR to make sure that we are the safest we can possibly be.
It's got nothing to do with that.
Well, isn't that just gonna, it's gonna put.
I'm more worried about what
Wait,
they
wait a minute. First off, it's gonna take them at least 3 months before they can even get to it. They will have to have it surveyed, they'll have to go in, strip off the connection to see what the damage is, let their engineers come up with a plan, send it to the city, allow the city to take a look at it, and to see whether or not this is gonna make it, and then they can pull the permits, put it out to bid, and do the work. That'll take about 3 months. Now, there's no such thing as anybody going in there, popping out stuff and that asbestos and lead flying in the air. That ain't gonna happen. There are laws against it.
Well, how are they gonna get it out of there then?
Huh?
How are they gonna get it out of there if they have to remove it then?
Oh, that's easy. They have to cordon it off. They use zero atmosphere because they'll have pumps that draw the air in so
Where are they gonna
nothing
put it?
goes out. They'll have to bag it, put it in special containers, and take it to special places.
How are they gonna
And
take it there?
building and safety will monitor
How are they gonna get it out of the building?
in
What route are
bags,
they gonna use?
in bags.
What route are they gonna use?
And
What route are they gonna use to haul this stuff
Oh,
out of the building?
they're specialized people.
No, they have to get out of the building somehow and drive it down the street to take it.
That will be
Disposed of. We need
determined
to
by
know.
building and safety.
And now
That's how,
also
it's not EIR.
by the
is.
EIR.
No. Yeah, it's got nothing to do with it.
There's insurance, first of all, there's insurance. So CIM's contractor is gonna have to be insured. The insurance company has rules that they need followed in order to mitigate their liability. Then the contractor, by law, has to follow prescriptions both through OSHA, Office of Safety and Health Administration, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, as well as LA City Building and Safety, that each of them has their prescribed rules that presumably dovetail, but at a minimum,
To this, what,
I want to understand how they feel this not being able to retrofit this building, how they feel this impairs the city, how this affects the EIR, how this can be, whether this is indeed an issue or whether this is something that CIM and its lawyers are manufacturing. I don't trust the source of this information. This smells of a developer trying to put out information that is to help them. It does not smell of something that has anything to do with an earthquake hitting, tonight.
Greg, the fact that
I have lived in this neighborhood with earthquake insurance since 1986, and I have never used that policy. And I do not want to have the fear of an earthquake or asbestos or anything else used to tell me about this building. If there is an earthquake of this nature, you should talk to our fire department about what earthquakes will do to downtown where there will be 5 feet of glass. This is going to be nothing compared to what happens in this area if we have an earthquake of that nature. So please don't use scare tactics about this building. I want facts, and I want it to come from the city. I don't want it from a developer, and I don't want it from somebody who is using this as a scare tactic.
I
Wait,
just don't
wait,
understand
wait,
if this
just a
has been
minute,
such a
wait,
dire
just a
situation
minute.
for 21 years
the
that.
fact of it
nobody's
is,
heard
it doesn't make any difference. The only thing that matters is that it's a concrete building, unreinforced, and there's a law in the books that said they gotta do it. Now, you're right about the 25 years, I'm sorry?
It's a reinforced concrete frame building. It's in the permit history. So are the different changes and alterations made to the building over time. To characterize it as a concrete, unreinforced building is factually incorrect.
Okay. Okay.
It would be nice to have facts, as Randy has said. What are the facts here? And we don't really know.
Do you agree that it comes under the law? The earthquake ordinance? That this building falls within the earthquake
Yes,
ordinance?
because it's
Okay.
built prior to
That's-
1960.
There's a
the issue.
huge
That's the
percentage
only
of
issue.
buildings in
Yes,
the city that are not following the law.
The
Very
law
few
says
are in
that it's
development.
there and it should be done.
You
Now, you're
did
right,
have
you're
a
right about
25-year
25 years.
timeframe. And frankly, this is when you do those retrofit projects. As you go through the EIR process, and one of the things they analyze in the EIR is the structural redesign. Because of its potential designation as a landmark. It's not, because somehow that would derail in making it be a landmark.
Is there anything in the ordinance that says it about the EIR? Is there anything in the ordinance that says that this building has to be in the EIR? Zero.
No, that
It's
was
exempt.
actually Tim's decision to go through the EIR process. When you make that determination to do that, you pretty much go through the process. You don't all of a sudden decide that, oh my God, this ordinance just got enacted. In fact, they went to the EIR after the ordinance was enacted. You have 25 years to do this. The normal, as a construction-oriented guy as you are, the normal process that you do at EIR is to analyze what the issues are in the building, not to have the CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, be run by having piecemeal approach to the project definition, knowing what the issues are, which includes haul roofs, as was stated, which includes what are the hazardous material mitigations. Everything like that is accurate. It is addressed in the EIR. To go for a piecemeal approach is not allowed within the EIR or within CEQA. And you're right, within the municipal code, it does state very clearly about what conditions would apply where a building that's within an EIR can get out of that. It's within a state of emergency when it's been declared by a governor. In other words, what you experienced right after Northridge, right after Silmar, right after any major earthquake. That is where you could take emergency measures. The measure here is not an emergency except maybe within SIM satisfying their investors. I don't understand why this has become a crisis that has to be addressed without going through the normal public process review that SIM agreed to when they agreed to do an EIR. All I have to say.
But, okay.
If Farmers has to do the retrofit, Farmers could do the retrofit tomorrow if they own the building. That's their right.
It is their
But they
right.
don't own the
It
building.
is-
No, they don't own the building, but my point being,
It is
there's
their
no
right.
process
It
for
is
them to
their
go
right.
through because they're
Not-
under
not-
safeguards.
Not if Farmers was redeveloping that building. We would be having this same discussion and this same review process. If Farmers decided to turn it into condos and do this, they would have to go through this.
Anything they did, they told us what they were gonna do and then did it. And I've lived there for a very long time. And the other thing is, one of the reasons I think that the building is sinking on that south end is that farmers pumped all that methane out. Before, there was a Brookside. We had another organization called Warren. Our treasurer was a controller for farmers. Farmers pumped methane out, and they saved $250,000 a year in their heating and cooling from it. And they did it for maybe 20 years. And I think that's probably have a lot to do with the reason why it's uneven on that back end.
Possibility
When you
of
go in
methane
there,
is a reason to
like
have an
stay
EIR.
confident to get over that.
In fact, that's one of the items within the EIR initial
Yeah,
study.
if they start
is-
retrofitting and there's methane there, I don't want to have that.
I think they
We
pumped
need
it all
people
out.
looking at this.
Grant, you know, you guys, I think they pumped it all out because the people here were trying to sue to try to get farmers to share some of the money. But we didn't get anything.
You said
Oh, and
7
yes.
gallons for each individual. How long can you hold the water?
I don't know. A year, I think.
No, not really.
Same.
Since we have very few minutes left, I will put up on the website of brookesider.net, the letter that we're referring to. It's 1971 earthquake, and it's a paper on one side. I listed that was the history of farmers, which also included the damage to the building in 1971. And so if you didn't get it, if you don't see it, but I did mail it to everybody who is a resident in our Brookside neighborhood. So look for that. It's either delivered Friday or Saturday.
It's also available in the application for the Historic Cultural Monument status submitted by the Windsor Square Hancock Park Historical Society a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a statement did you have a statement for the Friends of Brookside?
Yeah.
Or that's
Well, I think we're gonna have to probably postpone it for another meeting, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion. So with all the development issues, preservation issues, CIM issues, things like that in the neighborhood, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of communication between individuals and neighbors, between individuals and various city agencies, etc. And there are a couple of concerns that Friends of Brookside, which is a nonprofit organization, the officers are Jan as the secretary, Heather McPherson as treasurer, me as the president, and Owen and Sandy as board members. We were the founders, we started it, that's why we're there. And there's some concern that we have both for liability for us as a neighborhood organization, with concerns that, let's say somebody were to do something that a neighbor felt impacted their property value, and they did that representing to a city agency as if they were speaking for Brookside. For instance, somebody goes to building and safety, or somebody goes to planning and land use, and says, Brookside wants this, and city agency thinks, oh, okay, that's what Brookside wants, and they maybe pursued a path that somebody feels negatively impacts their home value. Now all of a sudden that person feels aggrieved, they want to seek out someone to make them whole. Well, Friends of Brookside might be an organization that, as we are a neighborhood organization, we would be a logical place to look. There's other neighbors who might set themselves up for liability. And anyway, it's a setup saying, we think it's a good, I say we had a meeting of Jan, Heather, Sandy, Owen, and I, and we talked, and we thought it would be a good idea to present our council member, planning and land use, with a letter saying that here is a process that Brookside will now follow in order to determine what does the neighborhood want with respect to communicating the feelings of the neighborhood to our council member, to planning and land use, etc. And that the letter would be signed by the officers of Friends of Brookside with the approval of, after doing outreach to the neighborhood, that this is indeed a set of criteria that we should follow to determine what we want and how we want communicated. That way, if Councilmember Ryu gets a phone call from me, it'll take Esther, take it from Esther. Esther contacts and says, this is what I want. They understand clearly that this is Esther's opinion. Whereas if there is a communication from Friends of Brookside, signed by the officers of the organization, saying represents the feeling of the neighborhood, they understand then that in order to have done that, these sorts of steps would have been followed. So that's what we wanted to propose to see if people had, vehemently against that, no way, or makes sense. The ideas that we were talking about. To ensure the process related to the designation, say of HPOZ status or whatever, is conducted fully transparent and representative process, we write to inform you that we are now establishing such a process, and then go to enumerate what the process is. We'll put this on brooksider.net so everybody gets a chance to read it for themselves. To establish open community-wide meetings every 1 to 2 months over a calendar year, to discuss preservation and development issues, the HPOZ process, any developments related to current interim control ordinance for Brookside, investigate all options available for our residents concerned with the scourge of mansionization and other housing development issues affecting our neighborhood and its future. 2, to ensure all of our residents have access to meeting notices, meeting materials, and meeting minutes, and that they have a right to participate in any official votes that will be made known to your office and to other city officials on matters related to the HPOZ process and other land use issues. 3, to facilitate broad education of the issues and available options to address those issues. So some of you who have attended the monthly meetings we started in December on the first Monday of every month at the library to discuss preservation and development issues, and we've had some city experts in to talk about that, and some neighborhood folks as well from neighboring communities that have HPOZs. To encourage debate with competing viewpoints on all matters, to help ensure all voices are heard and we consider them. 4, to invite city officials and a diversity of subject matter experts to present to the community to ensure broad perspectives are shared and discussed. 5, to work towards regular communication with appropriate city officials and to ensure that you have a reliable voice that represents the full spectrum of opinions within the Brookside community. And finally, to ensure the clarity of the process, the board members of both the Homeowner Association and Friends of Brookside agree that only one voice, the Brookside Homeowner Association, should be responsible conveyor of the above outlined meetings. So that's, again, you guys will post on brooksider.net. We'll come back to you. We're going to go out to each of the 400 plus homes with a copy of this, as well as getting folks who may not agree with that this is the right way to go and what their thoughts are on why it's not, our thoughts on why it is. And then through brooksider.net, we'll have a vote device so you can go on and log in and just cast a vote. And if people feel, if a majority feels that this is a smart thing to do for the neighborhood, so we can communicate as one voice, great. Then we will, as the officers of Friends of Brookside, sign it and deliver it to the various city agencies. If you don't, then we won't. Then we'll deal with what happens if we don't. So, from a
I think
liability
it's also
standpoint.
worth mentioning, if I could, that in the board meeting that I attended, when I spoke out against such a one-voice approach for the neighborhood, because I think it's very hard to achieve one voice for an entire neighborhood with 401 homes, that Owen immediately went from saying we would have 5 signatures on any such letter of the 5 board members to 3 signatures, because I said that I would not sign such a letter. So I think this is worth having a discussion about. I think it's very controversial. I think we should table it for the next meeting. I think there should be a lot of discussion about it. Posting it on the website is fantastic, and having another meeting to discuss, what this really means and who will make decisions and what kind of letters would actually be written on our behalf and signed by whom is worth having a good discussion about.
Yeah, and let me tell you my position on it. Not everyone comes to these meetings. Some people come all the time, some come every once in a while, and some come never. And we have no right to speak for people that we don't know what they think. And we have no right to send out letters and put them at risk for something they know nothing about. And so I'm very much opposed to anybody representing me on things that I have nothing to say about. If you send it off to Brookside, I'd like to know about it. I think that any of us can take any position you want on anything to anybody on your behalf. but not on behalf of Brookside.
If, hypothetically, if we all agreed to the one voice, it'd be nice to know how the board operated and how they will go about making sure it is an actual representation of the people of Brookside. Will there be elections held? Will there be terms that positions in the board will be filled by other members of Brookside that are elected to office to make sure that people support their ideas and support the person who's representing them to the city, to our council members, and representing our neighborhood as a whole.
You ready for the answer?
Sorry? Well, yes, I'm looking for an answer.
We have elections, and the people in office have been elected. The last person that we put in office was Heather Crossman,
Yes, I
for the
remember,
specific purpose of dealing with issues with CIM.
When were these elections?
I was at that meeting, Owen, and the thing that bothered me about it is you nominated her and the people there made that decision. I think if people know that there are elections or that there is some kind of business that's going to be decided, they would come to the meeting prepared for that. I belong to a lot of organizations and I never have figured out how this organization runs. I do not want your job. I am thrilled that you and Jan and Heather and Roy volunteered to do this. I respect you greatly, but I don't think the process is transparent as I expect it to be in other organizations. And it's one thing when you're organizing a picnic or you're doing some things for the neighborhood, everybody kind of, says, oh, that's great, let me know, I'll show, I'll bring my bean salad. But at the same time, when you're talking about CIM and you're talking about other things that are much more impactful, I think that's why there's been this confusion. And I really would hope that the board could sit down and figure out a way, or come to the neighborhood and say, we're going to organize this, this organization in a particular way. There will be elections every 4 years, 5 years. There will be these officers. They will be up for re-election at this time, and the minutes will be posted. The agenda will be posted. We have this website. Anybody who cares can look at the website. But things happen in rooms or in backyards, and I don't know what the real business of the neighborhood is. It's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of, if you're going to have a one voice, then it should have our names on there of who those voices are.
I agree.
Because it should be democratic in the sense that we should be able to not be part of that voice if we don't want to be, but then we are not part of that group that has said,
Randy,
this
I
is what we're going
wholeheartedly agree. Let me say this. For all of the years that I have been president of this organization and the one before, I'll bet you that I haven't written 5 letters. And actually, whenever a letter went out, I was asked Sandy to send a letter to somebody on behalf of the organization. And I'll bet you, in the 40 years or so that we've been around, I haven't sent out 5 letters. Not ever.
There wasn't a big development on the street for the
Look, this is not the first.
What's the point?
We have not had the size of that one, but there have been several in the neighborhood. We had these issues, but this is not new for us.
Well, it's new on the scale.
87
And I'm still
units.
going back to, when was, who
no.
elected for Heather and when was
Also,
this
when were
election?
you
And why
elected?
didn't you know
When
about
was
it?
I elected?
Yes.
I remember the last election. I think the last election that I was going to be voted to have the friend of Brookside. And we also talked about whether or not we were going to have a corporation that night. Our lawyers here advised against.
Advice against incorporating?
Yeah.
But when was that? About 4 to 5 years, okay.
But Heather wasn't even at the meeting that she was elected at, so I didn't even know she accepted the job.
She did accept.
Well, I gathered that from later information, and again, nothing against Heather or anybody else. I painfully remember, I bought my house in 1986. I painfully remember this big hole that was sitting there where there's an apartment building now next door. and that's sat there for 30 years. And I'm sure John knows how that happened or why, but you know, I get really nervous when things are allowed to happen like that. I don't want CIM to end up with a big hole next door. That's why there are laws, that's why there are processes, that's why there are discussions. So, you know, I know that this neighborhood, the reason it's so charming to me is that it hasn't changed that much since I moved here. In fact, most of the changes have been for the better. You know, I think the neighborhood is much cleaner. I think it's much more neighborly. I think I think the park that was almost ruined was something that I fought against years ago with my neighbor who no longer lives here. Was going to be turned into a parking lot by the city. So again, I want to know who the city is talking about, and I also want to understand how our own organization is being represented. And I know that I'm asking you to do work or the board to do work, but I assume that's why you were elected to the positions, that you were willing to take on that responsibility. The board that I'm on, I take the responsibility of making sure that we communicate according to a set of rules and a set of bylaws.
Guys, I don't want to cut anybody off, but it is 8:35, we overstepped the stage, well.
Thank you to our hosts.
Thank you.